Welcome everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about biodiversity. So here we will discuss on introduction, concept of biodiversity and its types, distribution of biodiversity, biodiversity and balance of nature, benefit of biodiversity, threat to biodiversity, conservations of the biodiversity, biodiversity of India and South Asia, conversation of the biodiversity, conclusions and references. So the term biodiversity was first coined by the World G. Rosen in 1986. The biodiversity comparison of a complex collection of innumerable organisms known as the biodiversity which constitute the vital life support for survival of human race. Biodiversity, abbreviated as biodiversity, represent the sum total of various life forms such as unicellular fungi, protozoa, bacteria, multicellular organisms such as plant, fish, mammals at various biological level including genes, habits and ecosystem. Biodiversity. What does bio means? Bio equals to life. What does biodiversity mean? Diversity equals to variety. Concept and type of biodiversity. Biodiversity is the variety of the life form on earth and the essential interdependence of all living things as defined in conventions on biological diversity signed at Ratio D scenario in 1992 by 1954 countries. The biodiversity defined as the variability among living organisms from all sorts including inter-ally, terrestrial, marine and other aquatic ecosystem and the ecological complex of which the area part this include biodiversity within species, between species and of ecosystem. According to IUCN in 1998, that variety and variability of the species of their populations, the variety of the species of the life forms, the diversity of the complex associations with the species with their interactions and their ecological process which influence perform. There are three types of biodiversity: diversity of species, diversity of ecosystem, diversity of genes. Florid and fauna diversity depends on climate, altitude, soils, presence of other species. Most of the biodiversity concentrate in tropical region. Biodiversity hotspot, a region with high biodiversity which most of the species being endemic. India have the two biodiversity, East Himalaya region and West Ghat. Biodiversity and balanced nature. Tropical level. Eliminations of the species from the tropical level can cause destruction of the ecosystem as well as biodiversity. Plant in forest, deers, lion, complex ecosystem. In a complicated ecosystem having several topic levels, loss of one or more species do not cause any serious problem because the alternative available. Keynote species, loss or additions of species cause dictable change in ecosystem rate. Species make unique contribution to ecosystem functioning. Next, complementary. Difference among species in their requirement for different resources will cause complementary interaction so that species could obtain more resources. Facilitation and mutualism. Plant also may also benefit from their negotiation through ameliorations of the physics and the biotech environment. Portfolio effect. Species riches increase the temperature stability of the entire community while the biomass is stable. Insurance hypothesis. Biodiversity buffers ecosystem against environment change such as global warming. Benefit of biodiversity. Food or drink, fuel, medicine, better crop varieties, industrial materials, recreation, education and research traditional value. Ecological service, balance of nature, biological productivity, regulations of the climate, degradations of the waste, cleaning of air and water, cycling of natures, control of potential pest and disease causing species, detoxifications of soil and sediments, stabilizations of the land against ecosystem, carbon strains and global climate change, maintenance of soil fertility. Threat to be biodiversity. Natural cause: narrow geographical area, low population, low breeding rates, natural disease, anthropology's cause, habit modification, overpopulations of the selecting species, innovation by exotic species, pollution, hunting, global warming and climate change, agriculture domino effect. Recent issues on biodiversity. Some 70% of the genetic diverse of crop plant been lost in past century. Some scientists eliminate that as many as 3 pieces per hour are going exact and 20,000 extinctions occur each year. Roughly one-third on the world scroll roof systems have been destroyed or highly degraded. About 24% of the mammals and 12% of the bird species are currently considered to be globally threatened. More than 50% of the world wetlands have been granted and the pollution of the inland water weather species have declined by 50% between 1970 to 1999. Conservation of biodiversity, biodiversity inventions, conservation biodiversity in protective habits, in-suit conversation, ex-suit conversation, seed bank, gene bank, pollen bank, DNA bank. Restorations of biodiversity, impact environmental education, entering, strengthen and enforcing environmental legislation, population control, reviewing the agricultural practice, controlling urbanization, conservation through biotechnology, biodiversity in suite, ex suites. Biodiversity is mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, freshwaters. Biodiversity conventions. The first convention on the biodiversity were the General Capital, Brazil from June 5 to 16, 1992. To ensure conservation of biodiversity, sustainable use of biodiversity, the rational and equitable share of profit to occur from use of genetic resources. The second conservation organized of Johannesburg in 2002. International Conference held on biodiversity, International Conference, Indian biodiversities and conclusion. Biodiversity is our life. If the biodiversity got lost all this rate, then its near future, the survival of the human being will be threatened. So it is our moral duty to conserve biodiversity as well as our environment. Long-term maintenance of the species and their management require cooperative effort across required landscapes. Biodiversity should be dealt with at scales of habitats or ecosystem rather than at species level. These are the very interesting aspects of biodiversity. Beside that, I want to share few interesting aspects and a research paper on biodiversity. So this research paper actually topic is biodiversity losses and impact on humanity. So Andrew, David, J. Emmett, they are discussing on this. The most unique features of Earth is the existence of life, and the most extraordinary feature of life is the diversity. Approximately 9 million type of plant, animal, protist, and fungi inhabit the Earth. So to do 7 billion people 2 decades ago at the first Earth Summit, the vast majorities of the world national declared that human actions were dismantling the Earth ecosystem, eliminating genes, species, and biological threat at all alarming rate. The observation led to the question of how such loss of biological diversity will off after the functioning of ecosystem and their ability to provide society with the goods and service needed to prosper. These are the different aspects of biodiversity, and if we can understand how the biodiversity can help us, how it can add value to our society, how it can give different kind of things in our society, then we can take necessary initiative, and this biodiversity help to solve this climate change. So if you have any question regarding these things, you can ask me. I'm request everyone, please share our content as much as possible. We are do some fundraising, so I request everyone, please join. Thank you everyone for joining today's session.